Summary of 1 Kings chapter 8, 9 and 10. So in chapter 8, Solomon assembles all the leaders of Israel in Jerusalem to celebrate the Ark of the Covenant being brought into the newly built temple for the first time, and he offers an innumerable amount of sacrifices. And after the priests carry the Ark into the most holy place, God's glory in the form of a cloud fills the temple, which Solomon recognizes as a sign of God's approval. So he blesses God in front of all the people, worshipping him for keeping his promise to David, because though David wasn't allowed to build the temple, God allowed his son, Solomon, to inherit the throne and build it in his place. He also asked God to fulfill his promise and bless Judah and Israel so long as their kings followed the Lord. And he also knew that the temple wasn't great enough to contain God's majesty, but he still asked God to hear the prayers that his people offered from the place, as well as the prayers of foreigners who came to the temple seeking to know the true God of heaven. And a large portion of Solomon's prayers was about future forgiveness. And they celebrated with a 7-day feast. So in 1 Kings chapter 9, God appears to Solomon a second time, and God is pleased with the temple, but he was more interested in the hearts and devotion of his people. God told Solomon that he would establish him and his descendants as kings over Israel if Solomon would give his heart to God as David has done. If Solomon and the people turned away from the Lord, God promised to cut off Israel from the promised land and to turn the temple into a heap of ruins. And if this happened, the ruined temple would be a clear sign to all the other nations that Judah and Israel failed to obey God. In the chapter, Solomon also made the Canaanites do forced labor, and these were the non-Israelite people who the Israelites failed to drive out of the promised land. And Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Geber on the Red Sea. In chapter 10, the Queen of Sheba hears about Solomon's wisdom and brings him hard questions to test him. She also brings lots of camels, spices, gold and gems with her, and after Solomon answers all her questions, the queen decides that Solomon was even more wiser and more prosperous than the rumors had said about him. So she blessed the Lord who put Solomon on the throne and gave Solomon even more gold, gems and spices than had ever been seen in Israel. And Solomon gave the queen anything that she asked for during her visit, and afterwards she returned home. Now, to kind of put in context as to how rich Solomon was, all his drinking vessels were made out of gold, and silver was so common that it wasn't even considered anything. And every 3 years, Solomon had ships that would bring gold, ivory, apes, and peacocks to Jerusalem. Everyone sought to be in the presence of Solomon, and those who visited him brought him even more riches. It's very easy to be fascinated when talking about wealth like Solomon's, but remember that Solomon also wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, and in chapter 5 verses 10, he wrote, "He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is also vanity." Solomon had all the money in the world, yet he concluded that the pursuit of money ends in vanity. So before you dedicate your life to collecting money, consider the words of a man who was richer than most people could ever imagine. Like literally, silver was as common as stone in all Jerusalem. Verse 15 of Ecclesiastes is also really good. It says, "We all come to the end of our lives as naked and as empty-handed as the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us," which is why Jesus calls us to store up our treasures in heaven, not on earth. Serving in God's kingdom and having a life motivated by eternal purpose is way better and way more fulfilling than the vain pursuit of gathering money just to lose it all when you die. Jesus is coming back very soon. Be ready, and God bless you.